at the end of the day, into the company. So that's why we're so excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know Martina Lauchengco, I said because of fortunes. Martina has more than 30 years of experience in PM and marketing, and she's worked at places like Microsoft and like Netscape, and she also teaches at UC Berkeley, and she's taught there for about 10 years. And recently, and she's a partner at SVPG, and if anyone doesn't know that, that's where Marty Kagan is. We've had Marty Kagan on, and we've also had Christian Idioti on. They were both mind-blowing. And so it's really, really nice to have this third perspective from SVPG. And also your partner at Costa Noa VC, which also gives it another perspective, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're really gonna let you tell us about what product marketing is in tech companies, why we should know about it, why we should embrace it, and understand like what value it can give us in our squads. And then we'll break every so often for questions. So she'll talk about topics, and then feel free to put your questions on, and then we'll get your questions throughout the lecture. So yeah, so we just want to say thank you to Gong for sponsoring this meetup. So go ahead and take it from here.
Ooh, well, I will say Gong is one of my current favorite examples on the B2B side of doing lights out great marketing. So yay for Gong. Look at this, great example. And just an open invitation. I actually have the chat up. So if I see questions maybe in how I'm going through my talk, I might actually even proactively answer some of your questions. So I like to start a lot of product meetups just answering the fundamental question of like, what is product marketing? And really, how do you do it better? And I think all of us, when we hear the term marketing in any way or product marketing, there's some bit that flips in all of our brains and we're like, oh, that's the marketing thing. And it's something other, it's other, as opposed to how we think about ourselves and our job. And I just wanted to say, product marketing and marketers, they're not born, they are made. This is me as a baby. I went 2 of 4 kids. That's my mom. She actually came from Germany, and I'm sitting in my dad's arm. So he's from the Philippines. And for those of you who are more familiar with the traditional Asian parent, I was asked every family gathering whether or not I was going to be a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so it was really just a happy series of accidents that led to me becoming a product manager at Microsoft. That was my first job out of school. And it was for Microsoft Word, which was really the only product I was qualified to do anything for because I used it every single day when I was writing my papers. But when I say use it, I was really, I'd say, very average user in that I didn't use any advanced features. It was very much like a glorified typewriter for me. And I only pirated it from friends. So it's like I couldn't get it for free. I wasn't using it. And so day one of my arriving at Microsoft, they sat me down and they said, okay, so you represent one of the most challenging users. You aren't very engaged with much of the product's depth, and you don't see enough value in it to be willing to pay for it. So we want you to figure out how to convert the use of the world into paying customers. And that, I will say, was a great gift, starting my product management career with a framing from the customer and market perspective, as opposed to what's possible with technology and what are all the cool features. The problem they tasked me with was, you need to penetrate an extremely challenging market and help us figure out how to do that. And you get to figure out what that means. And so that was a really market and customer forward way to frame the job and the task that was in front of me. And a great example of how we actually brought that to life. So this is what is product marketing. We were given a couple years in an edict from all of the executives saying the next version of Word needed to simultaneously ship with the next version of Windows. And this was in an era where we had multi-year product cycles. And so this was essentially cutting our development time in half, which would cut our features in half. And this was also an era where the value of a product was very much determined by how many features were inside. So we would literally stick a sticker on the front of the box, 150 features inside. And so even if people didn't use 3/4 of them, they said, well, there's 150 units of value, so I feel good about this. So we were basically going from the most feature-filled version that Word had ever had to one that had about half. And we needed to convince the world, this is so great that you have to upgrade or buy it. So the product management and product marketing teams came together and said, how do we solve this market problem? Because the product is fixed. We can't change the time frame. We just have to figure out how to do this magic trick. And one of the product marketers brought out this study that had captured every keystroke of 200 users. And when we examined the data, it showed that most actions that most users take fell into 4 really basic categories, like formatting, printing, file management. And when we looked at our features, they were in those 4 major categories. So if you go to file open, it shows the most recently used things you've edited. That came in that version. Or the red squiggly line that underlines your misspelled word as you type, that was also in that version. So all of these enhancements to ways that people were already using the product were coming into this version. And that was when it hit us. That's how we frame the value of what we're doing, which is we focused on the features that are improving how most users already use Word. So we set that frame for all the analysts and pundits that we talked about the product with. We set that frame for the field. And that version of Word became, at that time, the most critically reviewed, positively critically reviewed, and most commercially successful version of Word up to that point in time. And that's with major feature deficits. But it was really all how we positioned that product so that its value could be perceived in the market. And that's really what I want you to think about as product marketing. It is not a job. It is a function. It is a discipline, and anyone can practice it. Product marketing's purpose fundamentally is to drive product adoption by shaping market perception through strategic marketing activities that meet business goals. So if you reverse engineer the example I just walked through with you, the business goal, it was very clear. You must simultaneously ship with the next version of Windows. It's a corporate imperative. We had no choice. Driving product adoption meant we had to have the most influential pundits at that time advocating on our behalf. So we needed to shape their perception of the value of the product. Not, aren't these features great? It was, why is this valuable? And then strategic marketing activities. Let's go on tour. How do we present that? I'll show you some of that. How do we arm the field with the tools to make them successful so that it wasn't, here's that list of features you need to sell. It's here's how to position everything that you're about to talk about so people are surprised and delighted at the value that they're going to receive, even though it costs them the same amount of money as the last version. And here is the problem that is in the way of product marketing today, is that unfortunately, the way it is practiced by most who hold the title, it has gotten, is the practice and the discipline has gotten conflated with all of the tasks that most people that hold the title do. So I have here 2 very popular frameworks, one that which puts it into 37 check boxes. Product marketing is all of these things. Are you more this? Or are you more that? Or this one, which is another one that comes from a well-known product marketing organization, and you have 5 rings, and in each of the rings, I didn't even count up because there were too many things to count. And I was like, oh my God, if this is how the job is being defined, and if this is how everyone thinks, oh, if I'm doing product marketing, I need to check all of these boxes. No wonder it's so confused. And people have forgotten what its ultimate purpose is. And I'll tell you why it's so critically important, much more important now than even when I started my career, is this is the MarTech category overview. They produce this every year. And this was just produced a couple weeks ago. And so it's the latest count. There are over 9,900 solutions in this one software category alone. 5 years ago, it was about half that many. Every single software category has so many new entrants flooding into it. It's an extremely dense and competitive and confusing marketplace for customers, for anyone that you are trying to reach. It is not, the challenge is no longer, can we develop this product?
And
oh, sorry.
Yeah, we muted him.
Okay. All good? Excellent. So the challenge isn't about building the product. The challenge is about whether or not people understand it's worth their time to change what they do or to adopt you.
Mommy?
Uh-oh. Sorry.
No worries.
All right. Okay.
Okay. No worries. So I just want to kind of draw create a mental map for how much cognitive load we are putting on people to perceive and understand why they should be leaning in and paying attention to our products. This one software category is the equivalent of the number of cities on the planet Earth. And if you think about most people's cognitive capacity, like they can't name even more than a couple dozen of the 195 countries. So this is one software category. If you're in the app ecosystem, there's 5.5 million apps that are competing for attention. And if you look 5 rankings above you and 5 rankings below you, there will be 100% perceived overlap in what you're doing and how they're talking about it. It is genuinely very, very confusing for customers. And so this is why creating a frame in which the context for the value of what we're doing becomes as important as what we're building. And there is not enough product marketing talent in the world for all of this to be done just by people who hold the title or just by people who are doing marketing. It must be factored into how you think about how you do your job and the product that you build. So anyone in product can and should be helping to make product marketing happen. Again, you're not holding the title, you're just making sure the right core product marketing fundamentals are being done and gut checked in terms of what you produce and how something goes to market. And the best product marketing happens as you build, and it shapes and informs what you build. So my day job at Costa Nova Ventures, I work with really early stage startups, and we fund technical and product founders. So there is not a single person we fund that we don't believe is actually already creating a super great product or has proven themselves to be very capable at product. And yet the harder struggle is not, can we build this, and is this a great idea? And you can cross all of the risks off. You can confirm there is value and usability and feasibility and viability. But the challenge really is when you're going to market, how do you get people how do you get their attention? How do you increase and drive adoption? That is extremely challenging. And with a lot of companies, like just the last 2 months, 2 of the companies that I've been working with have really worked on and iterated their positioning. And that positioning, as when they found, oh, this is what really made it click with everybody that we're talking to, has changed the roadmap. So if you are doing this in an iterative, discovery-based fashion on the product side, you should also be doing the same on what does this mean for go-to-market? How do we talk about it? Because if you're finding that sweet spot, that wonderful intersection where everyone's like, oh yeah, I need that, with language that is connective, it might say, you know what, those things that we thought were 6 months ago, they are now this month's priorities. So that's how that product marketing mindset can actually impact what you are building, and why it's so important for everyone, regardless of title, to be thinking about these things. So I'm going to arm you with some 4 fundamental tools so that each and every one of you in the daily practice of what you already do, you have a toolkit so that you can start to apply this product marketing thinking. If you are lucky enough to have a product marketing partner to do this with, awesome. And this is how you help them be successful and focus on what's most important to get out of the function, as opposed to just the 37 tasks or launch management that perhaps or collateral creation that they might have been used to doing. So here are the 4 fundamentals. I'm going to go into each of them in depth. Ambassador, you're connecting customer and market insights. Strategist, you are directing your products go to market. It's not a series of activities. You're doing everything with great intention and purpose. Storyteller, you're shaping how the world thinks about your product. And evangelist, you're enabling others to tell your story. It's not just you, but it's how do others actually take that ball and carry it forward on your behalf, the ultimate in scale. So let's talk about ambassador. This is I want to tell a story of a company called Workiva. They had a product called Web Filings, which is for SEC finance professionals. And I know that sounds, well, for those of you in the global audience, the United States has regulations that require every public company every quarter to file all their numbers. And it's just to make sure that everything is transparent because it's a public company and there's oversight and it's auditable. So it's extremely important. All the I's must be dotted, all the T's must be crossed, and all this financial information comes in from all across a company. So you can imagine this professional has multiple screens up and they're taking and inputting things from across the organization. So these users went to their customer success managers and they said, you know, what would be really helpful for us? It's multi-screen product. It's if your product supported multiple screens. And so the customer success team just heard this over and over again. They said, you know what, this is really something that will be impactful to our customers. Let's bring it to the product team. So they went to the product team and they said, hey guys, number one thing that we're hearing from customers is they'd like to see multi-screen support. And the product team said, yeah, that seems like a real nice to have. We're working on some really important things like these data integrations and these jobs to be done that are fundamentally broken. But thankfully, the customer success team would not be deterred. And so they bird dogged that product team saying, really, this is the most important thing. We don't know about all that other stuff you're doing, but this is what we are hearing. And so the product team relented and they prioritized it in the next major release. It came out, and sure enough, those data integrations, those broken flows, the number one thing that was talked about by all customers was multi-screen support, because it affected their daily productivity much more than all of those other things that to the customer were more nice to have. Oh, that's great that you have that now, but this is affecting me every single day. Thank you for doing it. And this is an example of connecting customer and market insight. It is not that you, everyone on this meetup, is the sole person responsible for finding it and discovering it. It is that you have big ears across the organization, that you are willing to listen to anyone who is very far forward in the go-to-market and customer apparatus, because that's where they're hearing incredible customer insights and market insights that should be affecting how you prioritize what gets built when. And so if you have a product marketer, that person should be the one that is facilitating all of that. And they are sitting in that seat and they're helping to make that happen. If you're not lucky enough to have a dedicated product marketer, then you need to make sure that you are thinking about that customer and market insights and whether or not that should be driving some decisions. So how might you do this in your daily practice? So of course, the ideal is that you have embedded product marketers in product teams and that they are the ones that are doing this translation on your behalf. An example of this again might be, I know last quarter we were beating our number one competitor most of the time. This quarter, the field is telling us that that competitor has a new feature, they're doing this bake-off, and it is killing them in the sales process. Now, the product team might know advantage versus disadvantage on the product side, but they don't know that it's actually really hurting the sales process. That's something the product marketer can facilitate the product team knowing and saying, hey, what can we do? And the answer might be, there's nothing we can do on the product team now, on the product side now, but we will make sure that we prioritize this so that next quarter we can address it. That means between now and then, process improvements or sales tools, or how do we deposition? We'll have to fight that battle some other way. And figuring that out is going to be a collaboration, because there's going to be some keen product insight that the product team can give that product marketer and then take and make sure that that person can collateralize or arm the field with that. So that's what that embedded partnership looks like and how it translates in a rapid, real go-to-market basis. Think about customers' perceived value. If all you do in this week when you at your stand-up or your scrum is say, instead of how do we prioritize from this list of 50 to the 5 that we're going to prioritize this week, and you say, what might some market wind be that's at our back? Or what will this do that will actually change a customer's experience with us and make it delightful so that they might talk about it? So bringing that into the conversation of prioritization every time will start to bend that product squad's minds toward being more customer and market centric in how it's making decisions. And then that last point is just an important one, engaging divergent discussion. So that example from Workiva of where the customer success team said, hey guys, we think this is really important. And initially the product team's response was, and I see this a lot, we know what's important because we are on the product team and we've been managing this backlog and we see the bigger picture and you don't. You're coming at us with some things that feel urgent to you. But you want to really be honest about who this information is coming from and what signal it might be giving you in terms of where the market and customer reality is. And just encourage it to come in so that you're always open to it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's changing your decisions, but you want to make sure you're getting that information. So encourage all of that information coming in, because it's not possible to have perfect information. So you just want to make sure everyone feels welcome to bring something that might be controversial. So these are things you can do right now with no change in org structure and no change in who you have or don't have on your team that will make it more product market forward. All right, so let me check in. Questions so far?
Yeah. Anybody, if you want to ask questions on the chat, you're most welcome as you go. But I have a question myself about, like, it's not that common for startups to have a product marketeer. I think it's kind of a new thing. And I was wondering about the dynamics of the relationship between a product marketer and a PM, and how does that work in terms of the worker relationship, the accountability, and the dynamics of that? You were describing somebody who's a little internal, part of the squad, maybe, or maybe somebody external coming from marketing as like more of advisor. So how does it work?
So it is at an earlier stage in startups. You're right. There often is not a dedicated product marketer, and the squad or the founder, someone else sits in that seat. Someone else has to have that, wear that hat and say, all right, what does it mean for us to be product marketing forward? And let's make sure that we're going to go through all four of these disciplines to make sure we're thinking that stuff through. So someone, whether they hold the title or not, has to do these things. If you do not do foundational product marketing, it is, I don't want to say impossible to succeed in market. It's just so much harder. There's a huge difference between those that have that foundation in place and their ability to rapidly be adopted versus those that try and just, well, we'll produce the product and then we'll talk about it and da 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 da. That's the old world way. So early stage, someone needs to wear the hat and make sure that these foundational things are in place so that success is possible. When you have someone that's dedicated in the function, or a marketer that says, okay, well, I have to wear the hat. It should, in the earlier stages, it is you're a collaborative generalist. You're yin and yang. You're two sides of the coin, where you have all the earlier stages. You have all this signal that's coming in that is highly variable. Like some of it's market centric, some of it's product centric, some of it's customer. And the product team, or the person that's leading product, they're interpreting it in terms of, okay, what does this mean we should build? And the product marketer is interpreting it and saying, all right, well, what should our market actions be? Should we be doing something in the press? Should we going to this event? Does this need to change how we're talking about what we do? Should we be running some campaigns against this audience? And so they're really partners. At a minimum, it means that they're getting together each week to discuss, what have you heard? What are you doing? What are we doing next? And this next one, actually, the strategist, I'll give you a tool which kind of creates a map that lets everyone orient and just say every week, where are we on this map and how are we moving forward and what are our next logical steps? In a more mature organization where there might be many, many products and the product marketing function becomes more specialized, it might be oriented around a particular market or a particular vertical or a particular segment where they're using the product as a portfolio through which to reach that market, then they'll tend to specialize more, and it will still be on that weekly cadence, but they might just be focused on enabling channel partners and doing a series of things that are particularly meaningful for that vertical. So it is less dynamic on the product side and more expressive on the market side at more mature stages. So I don't know if did that answer your question there, Ronster?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Okay, good.
It's like what I heard is that built dynamics and relationship, and it's kind of a gray zone. It also depends on the proficiency, I guess, and the personality of the product marketeer. Is that true?
Well, I'd say it's probably true with every function, but yes. And I would say an invitation that I would extend to all of you is, if you feel like your product marketer isn't able to be your equal partner, the product team is the one that has the most potential to influence that person getting there. Because for that product marketer to have the awareness of product, as well as kind of just the credibility organizationally, the thing that gives them that is depth in product knowledge and depth and understanding of the why behind who you're going to and why you've chosen these features and why this is a superior way of solving a problem versus another way. And if they have that, if they're armed with that why, they're a more effective ambassador to all the go-to-market arms. And it just, that investing in making that person knowledgeable about that pays massive dividends. It is an investment. It is worth it.
So I'm going to take a question from Nicole. She's asking, in a smaller organization that has a few product folks and a few marketing folks, do you see this function being shared between teams, or should one or the other own it? So do you see a scenario where it's vertical, I guess?
It should always have a reporting structure. The vast majority of companies have it report into marketing, but my advice in general is have it report into the function or leader that knows how to make product marketing successful. So if you have a product leader that really understands how to do good product marketing, where they aren't just an extension of the product team, put that person there. Because sometimes if it is in marketing where it most frequently is, but that person only treats the product marketing function as launch manager, producer of collateral, producer of sales tools, then it's not going to be fully powered. Ship it, put it wherever it can be a full powered force that it has the capability of doing. Wherever, and there's always a leader who you think and it might be, no one has the knowledge of how to leverage product marketing, but let's just be honest, the CPO might have more credibility in your organization than the CMO because you're a very technical company. Put it underneath product because you want it to be armed with political capital to be successful, and for the product teams to feel, well, if it's reporting into the product organization, it must be important. And so let's make sure that we're investing in making it successful. Whereas it's easier if it's over in marketing to just say, oh, it's them, it's over there, it's other. So I'd at the early stages, figure out where it can be successful and put it there. This is one where there have to be dogma in place.
Let's go to strategy.
Strategy. Okay. So strategy, strategist. Yeah, go ahead.
There's one more question by Dune. I can't see it. Did you see it?
How to determine what things can run with or without marketing?
Yeah, because there's a lot of things. He says there's a lot of things to that people want and need. So how do you determine which one of those things need marketing and which one doesn't?
Right. It's basically when, I've been in discussions with marketers where we present the product roadmap and marketing says, well, we can't sell that. Right? There's nothing here that we can sell, right? Because some of the things that we'd be working on are admin tools or settings or infrastructure or backend improvements, right? And that's where there's been some conflict between product teams and marketing teams. So how do you determine, like, in which areas does marketing, need to be involved or not involved, if that makes sense?
So product marketing should be involved in product planning. If you have a product planning, like if it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever your cadence is and however you do that, product marketing should 100% have a seat at that table. And I'm about to introduce you guys to a tool that can help drive that if you don't have something like that in place, that helps reveal those disconnects on the market and product side before like everyone gets committed and all that. So strategist, here's the key thing. Directing a product's go to market doesn't mean the product was decided and now we're going to figure out how to bring to market. It means that you want this to be a dynamic dialogue. And the way I like to think about it is it's like everything go to market is a puzzle. You don't know exactly what it's going to be until you get it to market and you're starting to learn what the market reality is. And so what you need to have, just like any puzzle, is a picture of where you're going. You don't necessarily know the order in which all the pieces will fall into place, but you at least have a unified picture so everyone's on the same page. And then, like any good puzzle, you want the edge pieces in place first, so people know and understand what everything builds toward. So I'll give you an example of what I typically see teams doing as it relates to the marketing side, in actually even the product side. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Why are we doing it? When is it going to be released? So product teams, marketing teams, guilty of this, the very typical scenario. The more market forward way of doing this is to invert that. You start with when, then go to why, then what, then how. So just this morning, I experienced this, which is, so I ride a Peloton, which is a really interesting product. And Emma Lovewell is my favorite instructor. So I ride her rides, and usually she has tens of thousands of people that ride her rides. And Harry Styles came out with a new album. I didn't even know this. And so when I went on the Peloton this morning, I was like, oh, look, there's an Ally Love, Emma Lovewell, Harry Styles new album thing. I'll click on that. So when was Harry Styles coming out with a new album? So why? Oh, we're trying to make sure that we keep this fun and peppy, and that we show that there are reasons to re-engage with Peloton, because we're seeing our engagement drop off post-COVID. So that's the why. What? Let's make sure we get Ally and Emma together, because they are very popular as a duo, and we always have a lot of lean in engagement when that happens. How? We figured that out. The business development team works out a deal with Harry Styles, blah, blah, blah. So I was saying Emma Lovewell typically has like tens of thousands, and that's for things that have been out for months. That Harry Styles duo thing came out, it dropped on Friday, and already today, so 5 days later, it has over 110,000 people who are participated in it, because it intersected with the market when they understood what they were trying to get out of it, which is why they made it a duo thing. And that determined the what, and then they went to the how. So this is what happens when you are market forward. You have all of that wind at your back. So same person, same instructor, but they made sure that they had wind at their back, and they made it a marketing moment so they could take advantage of it as a business, and it pays off. So thinking about it from that go-to-market forward approach is what you want, because it's ultimately about how do we drive awareness, adoption, engagement. So Dune, you were asking, hey, we come in and we say, here's the stuff on the roadmap. Mark says, I can't sell that. Ideally, you identify those things before you finalize the roadmap. And this is a tool I introduced in the book. It's a product go-to-market canvas, and it's a tool that helps drive and surface those things before anyone gets all heartache about that. The parts that are in red are the edge pieces. So you've got time as the top axis. Then you have what's the customer and outside environment. Then you have the product milestones. Just that one act, that top box, that elevates how the product team is deciding. Like if you're doing all admin backend, because it's all, we got to fix what's broken before we can add anything in there. And then you put that against time and you say like, oh, Q1 is fixed, Q2 we can start building because we've done the fixes. There might be something in Q2 that's a little more interesting from a market perspective, or that aligns with what's happening in the customer side of the house, that you could swap. And from a market forward perspective, it's good to have that conversation saying, hey, what can we bring in, or what might we move as a result of this? I have never seen a team go through this exercise and not change some of how their roadmap thinking after they've done just the top 2 rows. What's happening in the outside environment? What are our customers thinking about? And then what are we doing? Because oftentimes that's not how product teams work. Here's all the work we need to do. Here's how we prioritize this. Here, we need this in place before we can build that. But you're not doing it with that market intersection in place. So this helps anchor that market, the customer and outside reality with what's happening on the product side. Then that vertical box there, those are the strategies, those are the marketing strategies, and that's determining the why behind any go-to-market activities. So when you're asking about who gets to decide, there might be some things that are immovable objects on the go-to-market side. From a leadership perspective, it's absolutely critical that we engage with these analysts, because we have to be seen as a category leader, and that Gartner MQ is happening at this time frame. So product team, we absolutely have to have these things, and or this is what's happening on the market side. So that's an example of when that marketing team should very much influence the priorities, because it's critical to the long-term success and adoption of the product. but this is where you have the key things that are happening. It's not everything, it's just the most important things. So you can elevate and make visible to the team at large what's happening, why is it happening, what might be important. And so those discussions of like, well, it's not a who gets to decide, it's the market should determine. The market realities and the customer realities should determine based on where you're trying to go and what you're trying to accomplish as a business. So those are the things that should ultimately answer the question. So that's how you answer it. All right. Oh, check in questions.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody, any question? Meanwhile, I'll fill in with I have tons of questions. I have to tell you that when I read this chapter, I was like, oh my God, I need to write our marketing team. And I get the event, like the important event in our life cycle, just so I can put that in my H2 plan. I think it's so important. It was like immediate benefit just for thinking about the when, because in product you usually think about like an internal existing of present, like what we have.
Totally. And IT, well, you guys, some of you might know Chris Jones, SVPG partner, is my husband. And I would tease him. I was like, you should know better because of and he would literally, the times that he would come to me saying like, oh yeah, we're releasing, these features. And I was like, well, what determined when you were releasing them? I was like, well, they were done. And I'm like, that's never a reason. Where's the market thinking? So I would, it's hard. It is not the natural muscle for product teams. It's like, oh, it's ready, it's done, and then somebody else needs to worry about what that might mean.
Yeah, I wanted you to elaborate. So that's like the planning. So what do you do with like events that happen? Like, well, you realize there's an event going on. So how do you input that when into the workflow?
So that here, so that's the top line, which is here. These are events that are happening. So KubeCon, Identiverse, Dreamforce, whatever it is, the relevant thing for, or CES if you're consumer oriented, or there, that's where consumer windows make a big difference. We're about to hit summer. What are the implications of that for you, for your whatever your product is? That is where you anchor things, and that's what makes visible, oh, this is happening, what should we do? So the teams that I work with on a weekly basis, we do this all the time. Okay, this new thing is happening. Are we going to have a beta available? If so, how many weeks in advance do we want to announce it? Because it's going to be too noisy around the event. So we don't want to launch at the event. Or do we basically want to talk about it and introduce it in a soft launch way at the event where we can have one-on-one conversations and then follow up with something more public a month later where we're using the event to build that head of steam? What determines the why there is, why are you choosing to do it? And it might be a staffing or resource constraint, which is, you know what, we don't think we're going to be ready. And so the soft launch is better. Or it's, hey, we want to use that 2 weeks before the event announcement to drive people to visit us at the event because we are shipping a lot of people there. So that's how these things all kind of work dynamically with one another. It's not, here's the answer, but it's, this is an opportunity. This event is an opportunity. How do we want to leverage that? And then you ask yourself the why. Drive pipeline, leadership, awareness. What is the why for you? And then that's going to shape what you do.
Thanks.
You bet. All right, so let's get to storyteller. And that example that I gave you at the beginning of the hour, which was how we told the story of words so that people understood its value. It wasn't just the story. It was also the how we told the story. So shaping perception isn't just the words in the story, dressing it up. It is sometimes the how. So you can imagine working at a place that was the owner and quote unquote inventor of PowerPoint. Everybody always used PowerPoint whenever they went to visit people. Okay, let me show you these slides. And we thought, you know what, we need to ditch PowerPoint because people just glaze over and they start just going, oh, here comes the slide. This is all marketing. I'll just wait till they show me the product. And so we ditched it and we went to a whiteboard conversation where we would take out a piece of paper and a Sharpie and we would draw this graph in real time. so that they would lean in and pay attention. They didn't know what was coming, and they'd never experienced a Microsoft conversation like this. It was always being presented at, and we'd say, we draw this. Here's this big button. Let me show you what the data actually look like. Here's the vertical axis, which is the frequency of access, the horizontal axis, which is how much they utilize the feature, big bump. Here's the 75% of what everybody does. And then these little bumps along the way. These are features that were not used as often, but when they were discovered, they were used with high frequency, which means there's a lot of value for those that discover it. Anytime we saw one of those little bumps, we moved it into the big bump. So a spell check, well, it's all the same, just got moved into the big bump. So we gave them, we didn't just explain what we did, we gave them a way to visualize and understand with data why we had done what we done. So the how we told this story was as important as the story itself. If we had just presented a pretty graph and said, this is what happened, and moved on, it would have just gone over as like a pretty graph, but we deeply engaged them in the conversation and the why. And so they leaned in a very different way. So how you tell a story can also shape not just what people are hearing, but whether or not they are leaning in and hearing it. And then of course, there are the words, which absolutely matter. And here are two companies, and maybe Ramster, I can have you read. These are two BI companies at the exact same moment in time. They're going after the same user base. So Ramster, why don't you read companies A? Can you see that?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you all help me with the second one because it's a longer one. So, is the best tool for running a data-driven company A is the best tool for running a data-driven online business. Data-driven decisions lead to better results.
So with that marketing flip or the bit that gets flipped in all of our brains, this is what you expect. It's benefit oriented. It's saying it's the best tool, data-driven online business. Who doesn't want that? Data-driven decisions lead to better results. So it's not wrong, but it's not really telling us anything that's unique about the product and really what it's doing. This could be Microsoft Excel. This could be a Google Sheet. You can be very data-driven, and what isn't an online business. And of course, data-driven decisions lead to better results. It's really not helping someone who might be a business analyst trying to find a new tool, make a more thoughtful decision or understand, why should I even click and learn more? So, Lori, can you read Company B's?
Yeah. Company B reinvents business intelligence. Our modern data discovery platform takes a markedly different approach to analytics. Because it operates in database, all our data is inherently drillable and explorable.
So you might not understand technically why this is important. It operates in database. All your data is inherently drillable and explorable. But if you are in the space and you have any knowledge, you're like, oh, okay, in database, so it's actually going to be faster. All my data is inherently drillable and explorable. Wow, that's not going to let me understand lineage, and that's going to save me a lot of time. It's immediately giving me something more substantial by which to believe the claim that it is doing something different and that it is a markedly different approach. It's not making me click, why this product? I don't have to go deep. It's telling me right there up front, why should I believe? It's not just honing in on the benefits as the first one was. This is, I would say, counterintuitive. A lot of people are thinking marketing means keeping it short and keeping it value-centric. Great product marketing is about who your target audience is, understanding who they are, and then telling them what they need to hear. It's not what you want to say, it's what they need to hear. It won't surprise you to know the first one was RJ Metrics that had a very mediocre outcome, and the second one was Looker that was acquired by Google for billions. And the CEO of RJ Metrics very famously said, we were basically building a better horse-drawn carriage while Looker was inventing the Model T Ford. So all of you want to be perceived as building that Model T Ford. Words matter, and it's not that you're keeping it short and sweet, it's that you're making it helpful genuinely for the audience that's trying to understand. Why should they care, and why is this different? Because it is hard. Remember the density of those categories. It's really genuinely hard for people to understand that right now. So how do you do this? You won't cook it up in a room by yourselves. This will be a massively collaborative and iterative effort with the go-to-market facing teams. And so this is my favorite collaborative, just real time pulling it all together, my favorite team. So we've got, Han Solo, who's the sales maverick. representing very much that go-to-market engine. They're out there, they're surly, they know the world. And you've got Chewbacca, who is the operations specialist, customer success, legal, all those other functions that are necessary. And they're also a good signal to learn from. Ben Kenobi, the product and engineering organization, Learned, the Sage. And then they're teaching product marketing, which is Luke Skywalker there, who is trying to get information and learning skills from learning information from all of his collaborators, and then using those superpowers on behalf of that entire team so that entire team can be more successful. This is what great collaboration to build those stories and all those go-to-market, those product marketing fundamentals. That's what great collaboration looks like and feels like. So fourth fundamental is evangelist, not that you are, but that you're enabling it from others. And this can take many shapes and forms. So when I was on the Word team, the first product that I was a lead on was Word for the Macintosh. We put a dog out there. It just was slow as molasses. We could not fix every performance issue because some of it was just, this was such a big product. It required more memory than most people had on their machines. But again, we knew that press were the most powerful influencers in the perception of the product. And so I just quick random question for you. How many of you use word count on a daily basis? Yeah, I'm seeing Ding go, no. Well, unless you're a reporter or a writer, you don't use word count very frequently. So if you looked at like that chart, it's way down here, like long tail. But of course, if you are a reporter, you're using it all day, every day. You're counting your words constantly. It was the bellwether feature for performance for them. So we made sure that we couldn't fix it all. We made sure that the performance was lightning fast for word count. We had an entire engineer dedicated to making sure word count was as fast as possible. It clocked in ultimately faster than the Windows version, which was a heroic effort. But of course, when that new release went out there, it was noticed by press because we focused on what we knew they'd be looking at. So there are always things inside of your product that can have disproportionate market impact that helps enable evangelism. And that's what thinking through evangelism means. Another version of that, of course, are how do you scale users? If you have a highly technical product, you can't possibly do all the education yourself. So this is an example from Splunk, the Splunk Trust, massive company with more products than I could even count. And they know the only way to scale that amount of product knowledge to their market is through people who are experts and are willing to share that knowledge with others. And so these are pretty nerdy super geeks, and they just lean all the way in and say, we love you and we want you to feel like you are part of us. They give them fezzes. I don't know if you can see there. They wear capes, kilts. They lean all the way in. They say, like, you are super nerds and we love and embrace you and want to reward you and have you be seen. That's enabling evangelism. It's not that they tell them everything to say. It's that they're loving them for doing what they do and they make them feel rewarded for having that product knowledge. So enabling evangelism isn't just about you are the evangelist. It's about making sure you're thinking through what does it take for me to enable others to tell our product story. Always assume that what others have to say about your product matters more than what anything official is saying. This is just a bunch of data that makes that point. About 74% of buyers research half or more of their work before buying. So the modern customer journey is so changed that people are trying to do so much on their own. So you need to make sure that wherever they're looking, that is not controlled by you. There's still good information that's getting out there or good reputation, and that is being taken care of. This is not all the product team's job. However, you might have unique knowledge, or you might stumble upon something that makes you realize, wow, we really need to address this. So just make sure you are thinking that through as well. You guys are very much a part of customer journey and persona work. And the big thing you can make sure it gets asked there is, what does this journey look like before they engage in the product? What are the things they care about? Because maybe you will build something differently, or you'll have a different onboarding, or you will do something that's more product-led because of what this journey actually looks like. So make sure the journey encompasses the consideration and discovery of the product phase, and not just how they actually use and what they're doing in their job. We already talked about that, but that was a very simple thing. So I just want to go really quickly through. if nothing else changes in your organization, here are 4 very simple things that you can do inside that will make you more product marketing forward. Let marketing and customer insights inform your product decisions. Create that product go-to-market map so everybody has that picture of where to go. Contribute to messaging. Make sure it's clear, authentic, simple. Simple does not mean short necessarily. It means appropriate for the user, and test it. You guys are running a lot of discovery tests. You can test messaging in those discovery tests by asking a question like, how would you just describe what you saw to a friend or a colleague if it's B2B? Help enable a new evangelist method or channel you might stumble upon or something, or see it, or you participate in a Reddit subreddit where you say like, there's a lot of conversation on this. How do we help the right conversations happen about our product? I just snuck in the 4 fundamentals. Each one of those was an example of each of these: ambassador, strategist, storyteller, evangelist. If this has made you more curious about any of this, I talk about all of this and way more in Loved. It is written for people in product, founders, executives that don't carry the title of product marketing, but it helps you understand what is the discipline and how do you apply it to what it is you do, because it is super important. And then my last wish for you is, may the market road rise to meet you, and may the market winds be always at your back. I know we only have 4 minutes left for questions, so I apologize.
Okay, so first of all, I want to really
That's a
thank you
risk
for
we
that.
took when we took the questions inside. So I know everyone like wrote more questions, I'm sorry, but we tried to like make it more interactive by incorporating the questions within the
So
talk.
Martina, do we
So-
have time for 2 more
Yeah,
questions?
you know,
Two more
I'm
questions?
looking at the chat. Do you want me to like rifle through these as fast as I can?
go.
Okay.
Yeah, go through them.
Create,
Yeah.
all right. Create smart messaging. Understand what matters most to your clients and what language they speak. Yes, that is 100% how you do it, Gal. Great question. The biggest thing to remember is, what do they need to hear, not what do you want to say. This is a very difficult mental switch to do, but it's absolutely essential. And then you test it. You say like, all right, is this actually capturing it? And do some scaling calibration. And here are 3 things. Don't just tell me which one you like the best. Stack rank them. Tell me why you like something, why you don't like something, because the why they like and don't like things is as important as any information that you're getting in there. So that testing also helps you calibrate that. What's important? Which is the important good design or marketing for making the successful product? So it's great so if you had mediocre design and great marketing, or flip that, which would be most important? I mean, I'd say it all depends on your go-to-market motion. So if you are a direct sales go-to-market motion where someone's not necessarily experiencing the product as part of that customer journey, then I'd say the marketing is more important. If you are product-led, where there's any experience of the product in that adoption cycle, I'd say then the design can be an enormous differentiator. It's not true in all markets. So I'm working with someone right now that's building a terminal-based app, and it's all in terminal. Design's not important. It is 100% like the speed and the hyper performance of terminal. So it depends on who you're trying to reach and what your go-to-market motion is. So, but pay attention to both those things. PLG is product-led growth. Who should write the collateral in the early stage startup, and how would we know it is any good? Great question. It's a collaboration. If you do not have anyone on the go-to-market side, then it's probably going to be the product person, but then put it in front of someone, like if you have a salesperson or if you have anyone that's go-to-market facing, put it in front of them, or anyone outside, ideally outside the company. Say, read this, does this make sense to you? We talk inside baseball all the time and we presume we are understood. Just put it in front of anyone that doesn't know what you're talking about and ask them if they understand what you are saying, and just be completely open to that feedback. So that's a really good thing. All right. Above your is very helpful for the building products or enterprises application. All right. Did I get all of it? Quick questions. How much involvement with data and self-reporting are realistic to expect for a product marketer for performance KPIs or OKRs? I mean, I think every function inside an organization has some responsibility in terms of understanding what are the results of their efforts, and how much of that is data driven versus that the hard part with product marketing is much of it is shared with other functions and takes longer to get results on. So something like being viewed as the category leader in category. That's not something like you got to wait a long time to see whether or not that's in place, and to know whether or not that work is good is hard to calibrate in the interim. I will say, if the one thing to look at that is always evidence of elevation is striking a great balance between talking about the customer's experience and benefits together with the product. Not either or, not product and then this, but again, it's very dependent on your market. So, but execution really, really matters. And that balance and being able to know, like with analysts, they care about the features, but they care way more about the difference it's actually making in real customers. And so being very customer forward for analysts actually matters a lot. All right, that was speed
Wow.
round.
That was superhuman.
That was wow.
Martina, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining us. And Martina, especially thank you for writing the book.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope it is a valuable resource to all of you. Thank you guys so much. Great questions, and for being here and for being so engaged.
Bye-bye,
Thank you
everybody.
so much. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.